Welcome to Lesson 12 about the rules of definition of our course on logic or mantiq. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma akhrijna min zulumatil wahm wa akrimna bi nuril fahm. Allahumma aftah alayna abwaba rahmatik wanshur alayna khazaina ulumik. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So in this lesson on the rules of definition, after a short introduction, we will go straight to the purpose of definition, the 5 rules of definition, and the identification of these rules from first up to the 5th. It was mentioned in the second lesson, as you may recall, that the subject of logic is definitions or mu'arrif and evidence or hujjah, or definition or ta'rif and argumentation or istidlal. And the role of logic is to teach us the appropriate method of giving definition and also the rules of correct argumentation. In this lesson, we are going to learn the logical rules of an appropriate method of giving definition. It must be made known that these rules are merely formal or structural. But do wise persons observe these rules in all definitions of quiddities or essences and realities of being? The answer to this question is beyond the domain of formal logic. It is something that is speculative. Now let's go or proceed to the purpose of definition. First, we must know that the aim of definition is to mention the rules and conditions of definition accordingly. The main purpose of defining consists of 2 things. 1, to present a clear and correct conception of the defined, that is the mu'arraf term or concept. To distinguish the defined term from other things in a perfect way. That's the second. Now, if we want to correct definition to meet these 2 goals, or at least the second one, we must consider the following 5 rules and conditions. The 5 rules of definition. First rule. The definitions, the mu'arrif, must be in a way that applies to all and only all referents of the term defined. That is, the relationship of 2 concepts of the definitions and the term defined must be equality. Logicians know this rule as comprehensiveness and exclusiveness, and in short, they say that a definition must be comprehensive and exclusive. By comprehensiveness, it is meant that a definition includes all referents of the defined, and exclusivity means that a definition never includes an unknown referent. According to the above rule, the following definitions are not correct. Defining through a more universal definition. If the concept of the definitions is more universal than the term defined. For example, in the definition of human, if we say walker animal, the definition will include all reference but will not preclude the unknown ones. Defining through less universal definition, if the definition is less universal than the term defined. For example, in the definition of human, if we say educated animal, then the definition will exclude the unknown, but it will not include all the referents of human being, because not all human beings are educated. But it will exclude animals, for example. Second rule. In a correct definition, the definitions must be clearer than the defined. Conceptually and to the addressee, it must be more known than the term defined. Let me repeat. In a correct definition, the definitions must be clearer than the defined. Conceptually and to the addressee, it must be more known than the term defined. Otherwise, it is not possible to attain the goal of definition. According to this rule, the following definitions are not correct. 1. Definition by a concept that is as clear as the defined. For example, if we define odd numbers, we say a number that is not even. Or in defining high, we say opposite to low. Then our definition is not correct, because for a person who does not know the meanings of odd and high, the concepts even and low are also vague. And if one knows the meanings of even and low, for sure he knows the meanings of odd and high. So there is no need for a definition. Number 2. Definition by a concept which is more ambiguous than the term defined itself. For example, in defining fire, we say is tachyon-like soul, or define light as a force-like existence. Rule number 3. In logical definitions, the difference between the term definitions and the term defined must not be in a way that there is also a lexical difference while they are conceptually the same. For example, if we define the term human as humankind, this definition is not real and logical, because merely a lexical definition which is related to philology, the study of language in written historical sources, and lexicology, the branch of linguistics that deals with the lexical components of language, and it is out of the domain of logic. For this reason, it is necessary that the term definitions and the term defined have a kind of conceptual difference, like the difference that exists in the incomplete definition, complete description, and incomplete description, as discussed in a previous lesson. Here, we face a question. How is the conceptual difference in the complete definition? When we define the concept human as rational being, is there any difference between the term definitions and the term defined? We can say that the conceptual difference in complete definition does not actually mean the difference of concept, but instead a difference of quality of concept, shortly and in detail. In other words, although the concept human is the concept rational being, they are different in brief and in detail, and in logic this amount of difference is enough. Fourth rule. In a correct definition, there must not be a vicious cycle or door. In other words, it should not be in a way that as the term defined, mu'arraf is defined by the term definiens or mu'arrif, the latter itself will be defined by the term defined, for this means in fact the definition of something by itself. For example, if we define even as a number that is not odd and define odd as a number that is not even, in fact we have said even means non-even. And the essential property of these definitions is that the concept even is known before being known. Correct. Of course, this is something impossible. Logicians call such definitions circular or dowry. Vicious cycle or circularity in argument or door is divided into the overt or musarrih or wadi and covert or mudmar and makhfi, meaning hidden. Fifth rule. The stated four rules are related to the concept of the definitions mu'arrif, and the fifth rule is about the terms alfāẓ used in the definitions. Although first and foremost logic deals with concepts and not terms, it has been said that the most common and easiest instrument for conveying concepts are terms. For this reason, logic has ideas about the terms of definition. Logically, terms used in definitions should be clear and without any ambiguity and multiple meanings. Using common or mushtarak words and metaphorical or mujaz words, therefore, is not correct in logic unless there is enough indication or qarina related to the considered meaning. It must also be said that some logicians forbid and consider incorrect the use of such terms and expressions in definitions and scientific discussions in general, and even with the presence of an indication. A noteworthy point here is that this rule never means that the terms used in definition should be simple and vulgar in a way that everybody knows and understands them. It is because certainly the terms used in a scientific field are vague and unfamiliar to the common people, but not to those who are interested in that field. In this way, we can use such terms provided that they are clear enough in scientific fields of study, although they may be unfamiliar to others. Okay, so that's all for lesson 12. So let's take a look at the review questions, or I should better say prelectio questions. Questions that could be considered before studying the lesson itself. Number 1, what is the goal of definition? Number 2, explain the more universal definition and less universal definitions along with examples and give some comments on them. Number 3, give an example of circular definition. What are the conditions for the terms in a definition? For your practical exercise, try to consider this. Write down 5 circular definitions as examples. Okay, so for our next lesson, inshallah, that we will deal next time, we will still use the textbook that we have, Learning Logic, a short course, inshallah ta'ala. So for more similar contents, subscribe to Wayfaring with Mansoor channel. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.